Welcome to another VeVe Digital Collectibles Breakdown video. I'm Corey with VeVe, and today we continue the historic and iconic USPS release of the 1938 Presidential Series with the release of Series 2. The Series 2 adds to the previous 8 that were released in the Series 1, and much like that Series 1, this one is going to include an airdrop reward. Before we dig into the history of each one of these stamps, let's quickly go over the drop details. USPS Presidential Series 2 is scheduled to release on Tuesday, July 4th at 8 a.m. Pacific Time. With 7 collectibles and 1 airdrop reward, this will be a blind box waitlist drop that has a price of 6 gems. For more information on how the waitlist functions, check out the video description for a full breakdown article. And in today's breakdown video, we're not going to get too deep into the history of the Presidential Series overall, because we did that in the last video, which I have linked down in the video description. In that video, we really dug into the background and amazing history around this 32 stamp collection, which philatelists have come to call the Prexies. With that, let's get right into each one of the stamps that's releasing, and we'll talk just a little bit of history as we go. First, we have the 6-cent John Quincy Adams stamp art, coming in as a common and minting 4,800 editions. The original printed over 3 billion copies via rotary press in both sheet and horizontal coil formats. This red-orange stamp depicts the 6th President of the United States, John Quincy Adams. Uniquely, he was the son of the 2nd U.S. President, John Adams, who also appears in this collection at the 2-cent denomination. Letters from World War II GIs can often be found with this stamp still affixed, as this was the special 6-cent airmail military concession rate, which was available to those serving in that conflict. Next, we have the 7-cent Andrew Jackson, also coming in as a common and minting 4,800 editions. This sepia-colored stamp depicts the 7th President of the United States. Known by friends and foes alike as Old Hickory because of his toughness in battle, Jackson was a general in the War of 1812, a frontier lawyer, politician, and a repeated duelist. In a duel between Charles Dickinson over the insult of Jackson's wife in horse racing, Jackson would be shot square in the chest. Despite this, Old Hickory shrugged it off and claimed a victory. Later in 1835, an assassin attempted to take Jackson's life at the Capitol. Instead, Jackson beat him to a pulp with a cane, and he and Davy Crockett subdued the attacker. The 8-cent Martin Van Buren is coming in as an uncommon and minting 3,800 editions. Olive green and originally printing approximately 1.2 billion stamps in sheet form on August 11th of 1938. This 8-cent piece depicts the 8th President of the United States. Uniquely, Martin Van Buren was the first U.S. President born an American citizen, as all the previous presidents were born before the American Revolution. The son of a tavern owner, Van Buren's family couldn't afford college. As such, the young Van Buren would work as a legal office clerk, learn law via that study, and be admitted to the bar at the young age of 20. Next, the 9-cent Harrison stamp art is coming in as an uncommon and minting 3,800 editions. This rose pink piece depicts the 9th President of the United States. Harrison was the final American president who was born a British subject. Harrison would catch a cold on Inauguration Day in 1841, and this would evolve into pneumonia. 31 days later, he would die, making him the first president in U.S. history to pass away in office. Rumored to be the first president to have been inflicted with a curse, every subsequent president elected in a year ending with 0 would also die in office. The pattern of this supposed supernatural curse wouldn't be broken until the failed assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan in 1981. The first rare of the series is the 11-cent Pope, which is minting 2,800 editions. The original ultramarine stamp printed just over 600 million copies via rotary press in September of 1938. Polk was a dark horse candidate for president and gained election on a 4-pronged stance. He promised to reduce the tariff, which were taxes on imports and exports, reestablish an independent treasury, settle that Oregon boundary dispute with Great Britain, and acquire California. By the end of his presidency, he would have accomplished all of those tasks. Interestingly, the first 2 stamps ever produced by the United States were issued during his presidency. Next, the 12-cent Taylor stamp art is coming in as a rare and minting 2,800 editions. Depicted on this bright violet stamp art is the likeness of the 12th President of the United States, Zachary Taylor, who was nicknamed Old Rough and Ready, and that was a moniker earned via nearly 40 years of military service with not a single lost battle. Despite often being massively outnumbered across multiple wars, he was seemingly invincible in battle. He had one of the most distinguished military careers of any American in history, and at Taylor's funeral, Abraham Lincoln said, "He did not once in his life fight a battle on equal terms, or on terms advantageous to himself, and yet he was never beaten beaten, and he never retreated. Finally, the 13-cent Millard Fillmore stamp is coming in as an ultra-rare and minting 1,850 editions. One of the lower print numbers amongst the collection, this blue-green piece printed just over 250,000 stamps via rotary press. A true rags to riches tale, Fillmore's father apprenticed him at the age of 14 to a cloth maker in Sparta, New York, where he worked under terrible conditions. Purchasing his own freedom from the apprenticeship, he walked 100 miles to get back home. He ultimately would study law, creating one of the most respected law firms in New York, and from there would transition into politics. During Fillmore's presidency, gold was discovered in California. The airdrop reward for this set will be the 10-cent John Tyler. Another major piece of American history, this stamp art depicts the likeness of the first ever president to assume office after the death of a sitting president. William Henry Harrison had died just 30 days into his term, and the then Vice President Tyler would receive notice of this via two horsemen in the early morning hours of April 5, 1841. The sitting president had never died in office, and there was much confusion in the wording of the Constitution as to what would happen next. Ultimately, and with much debate and division, on April 6 of 1841, Tyler would take the presidential oath, setting a precedent that has been honored ever since. And that's a wrap for this breakdown video. I think if stamps were issued as part of American history, I would have paid a lot more attention in school. With that being said, it's been great chatting with the history with all of you. Best of luck if you decide to go for this one. Until the next breakdown video, keep learning, sharing, and collecting what you love. This is Corey with VeVe, signing off.